Welcome to Bad Gear, the show about the world's most hated audio tools. The 80s are oftentimes associated with Hollywood-worthy heroism, impeccable style and epic synth music that aged great, as long as it was played on instruments designed in the 70s. Today, however, we are going to talk about K4. This digital synth, Kawai's answer to Roland's answer to Yamaha's DX7 and more upscale successor to K1 demonstrates impressively that the 80s were, first and foremost, very nerdy.
At the first glance, K4 is ticking all the
Did you just call me a nerd? Geek?
boxes. A bare minimum of physical controls like a surprisingly decent keyboard, with velocity and aftertouch, rock-hard buttons thirsting for WD-40, an oversized data entry slider, and smooth pitch and mod wheels. The latter of which can be routed to filter cutoff. Yes, you've heard that right. In contrast to the more pedestrian K1, Kawai implemented a resonant low pass here we will talk about in a bit. Speaking of which, unfortunately the joystick of its predecessor had to go, but you can still mix up to 4 waveforms. In this case selected from a list of 256 samples ranging from simple sines to other classic synth staples and nerdy digital sounding stuff, crusty acoustic and electric instruments that wouldn't have made it onto a D50 orchestral fragment, and a respectable daddy rock drum kit you can access via its own MIDI channel regardless of the mode you're in, while the full polyphony of 16 can only be achieved when sticking to 2 so-called sources. Dual filter 4 oscillator setups are possible in twin mode, reducing the polyphony to 8. There's also a simple pitch envelope. Vibrato is much appreciated, as is ring modulation. I would have loved to see the analog filters known from the K3 on the K4, but all we got is a crude yet strangely usable digital one with 7 steps of resonance and its own envelope. There's another ADSR for amplitude with a delay parameter buried in a different menu and a rudimentary LFO. I'm pretty sure some minimal techno artists would buy a pedal version of the FX section, but most probably no one else. These effects are not included in the K4r, but both versions come with the same Kafkaesque routing system based on 8 internal buses and 2 synths. This geeky love child of a ROMpler and a full-fledged synthesizer opens up a fantasy world of beautiful choirs, tinny strings, B-movie soundtrack material, and more e-pianos and organs than a simple YouTuber can handle. You can combine these patches to setups of up to 8 timbres, which allow for layers and splits, but are not exactly fun to set up. As we are talking about the workflow, it is quite cumbersome, but no serious intellectual challenge. There's a great technical analysis of the K4 by Niels Schneider, and while there are indeed 16-bit samples in the machine, one of the ROMs is dedicated to 8-bit sounds, which is fine with me. As mentioned before, there's a rack version that looks great with a Kawai programmer, and even K4 seem to have appreciated in price.
Every 80s hero needs a nerdy sidekick. Is the weird digital flavor of K4 a worthwhile complement to more conventional synths, or is it just a dated lo-fi keyboard?
You have already heard Kawai engaging in some D50 cosplay in today's intro tune. I love the smell of 80s presets in the morning. Smells like cheese. Time to program a bass sound from scratch and add a few classic patches.
Nice disco toms. A certain lack of oomph in the drum department aside, that was a pleasant surprise. Sure, the workflow takes some time to get used to, but I like the crunchy samples and the filter is, let's call it, special. Let's dial in a less nerdy bass tone and add a more acidic synth. While you can isolate quite a few sweet spots using the mod wheel to cut off routing, the filter and envelope behavior remains odd, with distinct flavors ranging from woody to rubbery. Certainly not to everyone's taste. When shopping for a K4, you will have to decide between the strange FX unit of the keyboard and the multiple outputs found on the rack version. I wanna know if we can work around that and create the official techno anthem of the international 80s bad gear space program. There's a reason why K4 enjoyers worship this archaic instrument up to this day. A powerful synth engine, interesting selection of waveforms, and the endorphin rush when you finally manage to dial in a usable tone. It doesn't have the majestic sheen of a D50, but I personally prefer Kawai's asthmatic lo-fi timbre, and most importantly, the samples were not beaten to death in mainstream music like those on Roland's 1987 flagship keyboard. Were the 80s as nerdy as the weird sounds and retro UI of K4? Maybe not, but it is certainly a more authentic symbol for that era than all the fake synthwave content. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Feel free to like, subscribe, become a patron and use one of the links down below that support the channel regardless of what your bad gear gas commands you to buy.